Alrighty. Thank you all for joining. I'm here with Stratis Minakakis, Holly Druckman, and visual artist Marsia Alexander-Clarke. We're going to do a few Q&As about the project Escuchando. And first off, Marsia, I would love to hear about your impetus behind the project.
Okay, well, I'm a visual artist. I have a very strong background in painting and then later on in sculpture. And towards my end of graduate school, I became acquainted with artists that were working with video. And I was strongly called to work with video. And I signed up at the community television station and pretty much learned the basics at that point. And I love the media. I love the working with movement and time. And so I've been doing video since the mid 80s and gradually refining the work. I attend new music concerts often here in Los Angeles, and I love the challenge of different ways of working with sound. And I went to a concert at the LA at the Music Center in LA, and heard Stratis' wonderful composition and performance of Crossings. I think that was about 4 years ago, not quite sure, but I was quite taken by it. And I had recently received the Guggenheim Fellowship, so I felt brave enough to walk up to him and ask him to collaborate with my piece. So that's how this all started. Escuchando is one of my single channel pieces, and it's colorful, and it has my video marks interacting with the colors, almost having a dialogue with the colors. The tiny narrow marks in the video are the marks, and then of course the color areas. The marks come from painting. I love particularly Agnes Martin's work and Soliwitz's work, and I wanted to do something like that in video. Of course, it's quite different. So I took the notion of mark making in painting and drawing, and I'm now using it in video. They are formed by video recordings now of nature. And what I do is crop them extensively so that they become mysterious. You can't really see what they are, but they're geometrical marks, and most of them now are narrow linear vertical lines and sometimes horizontal, and yet they have movement and are organic inside, and become very mysterious. So that's how that all started. I do sometimes, I have loved working with 5 channels at one time, at a time, and do large installations with 5 channels working together. This would be interesting to the music community, because the idea of the 5 channels came to me from one of Robert Ashley's performances at Cal Arts when he came to do Improvement. It was an early version of Improvement of his, and about 14 people stood in a row behind podiums and started speaking all at once. And I almost ran home thinking I could do something similar with video. And oddly enough, when Stratis did his performances of Crossings, as I recall, there were about 14 or more singers interacting with their voices throughout that performance. So both of those things have been a big influence in me with my work. Yeah.
Great. Stratis, I'd love to hear about your approach with the composition, with your interaction with Marsia's work, the video work, and what drew you to it and what you reflected upon.
Yeah, so when I first encountered Marsia's work, I was struck by how musical and how compositional it was. By that, I mean that for a composer, it communicated on several levels, almost in a one-to-one mapping. For one obvious thing is that there are very clear motives in her videos, and those motives are developed in an extremely musical way. They accumulate, they are reduced, they are varied, they are contrasted. And to me, it was almost like a suggestion for what I absolutely need to do. That the narrative of the work was so musical, so beautifully delineated in time. Another thing that I found very inspiring was this dialogue between the single and the multiple. So I noticed that in a lot of Marsia's videos that they start with the development of a very simple motif, as you can see in the beginning of Escuchando. And then after a certain point, that motif multiplies to occupy the entire screen. So there is this wonderful organic dialogue between that very single pristine idea and then the saturation of that idea to occupy the entire visual spectrum. And that is exactly also how I think about developing my musical ideas, like a very simple, pristine idea, but one that grows in a way that overwhelms the listening experience. So it was yet another dimension of musicality that I found in her work. Another one is that there is this beautiful balance between a very, I think, profound type of emotion, but also a very strong sense of structure. Especially once I started figuring out that in those moving rectangles, there were leaves or images of nature there. It was almost as if you're discovering the world around you, but through this very beautiful particular prism, like you're discovering something wonderful, but through a crevice. And that idea was very attractive to me. Music was very inspiring. And the more I got to know Marsia's work, the more I believe that it is a work that is profoundly musical and would appeal to anyone who is interested in composition. In a way, it's a very much visual analog to how a lot of composers today think about music.
Yeah, and so your idea behind, well, I guess Marsia's first introduction to your music was vocal. Did that spur your idea to do a vocal quartet, or what brought Carduus
yes.
on board with that? Yeah.
Yeah, so Marsia told me that she was very interested in working with voices and also introduced me to some of her work already with choirs and with voices, which I thought was extremely compelling. And what I tried to do is create auditory analogs to some of the motives that I saw in her visual work. So, for example, I mentioned these kind of subliminal images of reality. So I created for the voice, I created some resonators and amplifiers from commonly found objects like a little aluminum shield, bottles, and I wanted to kind of, on several points, subvert the uh, the um, the normal balance of sound between the singing sound and everything that goes into the singing, like the breath, the formation of the vowels, formation of the consonants. Would it be possible to create vocal gestures that are for singers, not for like living humans, not for electronics, that could subvert the normal hierarchy of sound in singing? And then also inspired by Marsia's structure, the piece is really in two parts. One that is really focused on these subverted sounds, subverted vocal sounds, and the other one that is more normal singing, but which eventually also morphs into these breathing sounds and extended vocal sounds in the end. I also used my interpretation of her marks to suggest structural points. So you will see that many times events correspond, visual events correspond to a musical structure. And then at other times there is a counterpoint. So a visual event might have an vocal correspondence, an auditory reaction, but with time delay, like in a Renaissance counterpoint. So I thought of Holly as a collaborator because Holly is an excellent choral conductor. She's someone that I've known from New England Conservatory, someone who has tremendous pedigree in contemporary music, but has also created her own ensemble from scratch and trained that ensemble. And I thought it would be a great idea if we collaborate on this project. There are not that many people, I think, that can do contemporary vocal music well, but I think that Holly is one of the best.
Great, that brings us to Holly. So I'd love to hear about how you went about building the sound world, the sonic world of this piece with your ensemble, and what that process was like.
First of all, Stratis, thank you so much. That's a really compliment. I'm grateful. I think we did have a lot of time, a lot of prep time with the piece. We were actually supposed to start the rehearsal and the recording process back in spring of 2020, and we all know how that turned out. Thankfully, we picked up the project again about as soon as we could after the worst of COVID was over. And I think there were a lot of things that informed my interpretation of the music, not least of which was, of course, speaking with Stratis and really going over it and getting a sense of the sorts of things that he was after and what he wanted. But also I wanted to make a point of watching Marsia's video as well. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I could immediately tell also that the ideas that she's working with and concerned with are very musical. There's so much about form, so much about perspective and point of view. And that was something that, as Stratis and I were talking about the piece earlier in the process, that was, I could tell that was something that he had picked up on as well. And so it was we were on the same page about that from the very beginning. And I think that the difficulties really, it's a very subtle piece of music. It's very beautiful. The instruments, the resonators that Stratis constructed for us, are meant to, like he said, they're meant to amplify the breath. I was sort of thinking of this whole piece as a kind of polyphony of breath, a dialogue between the four different voices, amplified by the extra resonating space of the bottle and by the slight buzzy sound of the tinfoil. And I think maybe the hardest part was learning that particular instrument well enough in order to get some of the subtler bits of the writing to speak as well as they were written. And I think it helps me to have, like, I'm deliciously spoiled to have such great singers, such generous and intuitive singers, that they took to it like fishes to water. So I think once we had that language down, that technical proficiency of using the resonators, the rest was very natural. It felt very easy to, I always felt like I knew where phrases were going. Musically, it was something that came to me very intuitively. I think that speaks to both the inherent musicality of Marsia's work and also Stratis's grasp of that, and also of writing for the breath.
All right, we have a surprise guest. This is Jackson. So anyways, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the premiere. Will be September 15th on a Friday. But I also wanted to hear what is next for everyone. And I guess, Marsia, you could start. I know you have something currently showing. If you could talk about, it'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've had two exhibits going on earlier this year. One recently closed. One was at MOA, Museum of Art and History in Lancaster, California. And the other one, which continues until October 15th, with a big closing on October 7th, is in Riverside, California, at the UCR Arts Complex. It's called the Culver Center for the Arts in Riverside. And that exhibit turned out very, very beautifully. So if anybody's in this area, I encourage them to go if they can. And what's next for me, I would like very much to find some other exhibits in larger cities. Both Riverside and Lancaster are at least, well, an hour and a half or so from the LA area. So it has been hard for some people to get out to them. And I do show some of my work here in my own home and studio, because I have two large display areas in my backyard. And I have started a new large project. I'm calling it a book of secrets, un libro de secretos, and it'll be having 3 groups of video works, each of which will have 4 to 6 videos in them. And I'm not good at sound. I'm not a sound person. So if anybody's interested in helping me out again with sound, I like something, adventurous music that challenges. Well, you'd be welcome to get a hold of me. That'd be very nice. So, and I'd love to continue collaborating with both Stratis and Holly if they have the time. I know they're very, very busy. So here I am, and I am getting very old, so I don't have a lot of time left. So hopefully things will move along.
Thank you so much, Marsia. Stratis, what does your world look like?
Yes, that it would be amazing to collaborate again, Marsia. For the immediate future for me, I'm working on a piece for bassoon for the bassoonist Ben Roydal Ward. And then I have a bigger project, which is a concerto for two pianos and a wind ensemble for Steve Drury and Yukiko Takaki, his wife, and the wind ensemble at NEC. And a few more things after that, but hopefully we'll find the time to work with Marsia again. I'll make it a priority as soon as time allows.
Thank you.
I am also, Marsia, if you'll have me, I would love to continue to work with you, and of course with Stratis as well. Coming up for me in the future, I'm still trying to grow Carduus, trying to kind of realize realize our full potential, what we can do bigger and better. Continuing to build my own career. Something that's been very exciting for me over the course of the past couple of years is that I've started working in the field of opera. And I've been involved with a couple of projects, amateur and professional, in the Boston area, with some Puccini and also with some new music. So that's been quite a bit of fun. And I'm also looking forward to a performance that I have in New York coming up with some members of Carduus, and it's a performance piece with James Rouvel and Lily Maya, who are artists that Carduus has also collaborated with before. We're going to bring some masho to a piece that they're putting together. So I'm very excited.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. I am looking forward to the premiere and enjoyed the time we had to talk today. So thank you all.